Hello everyone, and welcome to one more soft skill video session provided by Chandigarh University. Tell me about yourself. That's usually the first question asked during an interview, and today's soft skill video session is to help you find answers by understanding the question and how to prepare for it. It is a good practice to prepare for interviews by attending mock interview sessions. And even in the mock interview, the first question asked is where you need to reply by talking about yourself. Starting with that question is a good practice because that's often the very first thing an interviewer will ask you to do. Whether you're having a preliminary phone screen, speaking to your prospective boss, or sitting down with the CEO during a final round. Even though it's one of the most common interview questions, it's almost always stumping candidates. It might seem like an easy win after all you know all about yourself. But responding to this invitation to talk about you in the context of a job interview can feel stressful and complicated. It's challenging because it is broad and open-ended. You might be thinking, what do you want to know? How am I supposed to pick what to share out of my entire life story right now? Luckily, today's session is to help you prepare in advance, and there are some common opening prompts which you can use to your advantage, which will help you also set the stage for a successful interview. As with any interview question, the key to crafting an impressive answer is understanding why people are asking it in the first place. Experts and career coaches believe that asking this question helps the HR ease into the actual interviewing process. Often when the conversation starts, it's a lot of small talk and it's a way to transition into it. This is especially true for less seasoned recruiters or hiring managers. During the process, the interviewee is nervous, but the interviewers are trying to get their bearing as well. It is also believed that it's a very great starting point that can help inform the direction of the interview. Depending on what you say, it's going to help the HR and the recruiting managers to figure out the next question, which might help start a chain effect of follow-up questions and lend an easy flow to the conversation. Beyond serving as an icebreaker and transition, this introductory question also helps recruiters and hiring managers accomplish what often one of their major goals in the hiring process, that is, getting to know you. If you answer it well, the interviewers will begin to find out why you're the best candidate for this job, in terms of hard skills and experience as well as soft skills. It's a great opportunity to demonstrate that you can communicate clearly and effectively, connect with and react to other humans, and present yourself professionally. There are plenty of times when you will hear those exact words, "Tell me about yourself," but interviewers might have their own version of the prompt that are asking pretty much the same thing. These can include, "I have your resume in front of me, but tell me more about yourself. Walk me through your experiences. I would love to hear more about your journey. Tell me a little bit more about your background." Though there are multiple options and ways of answering the question, there is also a simple and effective formula for structuring your response. This can come in the format of talking about your present, past, and future. When talking about your present, talk a little bit about what your current role is, the scope of it, and perhaps a big recent accomplishment. When you're referring to your past, tell the interviewer how you got there or mention previous experience that's relevant to the job and company you're applying for. When you're talking about the future, segue into what you're looking to do next and why you're interested in this gig, and also a great fit for it as well. This isn't the only way to build your response, of course, and you can tweak it as you see fit. If there's a particularly potent story about what brought you into this field, for example, you might decide to start with that past story and then get into what you're doing in the present. Whatever order you pick, make sure you ultimately tie it to the job and company. A good place to end it is to give a transition of "this is why I'm here." You want to be absolutely certain your interviewer is left with the impression that it makes sense that you're sitting here talking to them about this role. Next, we'll be discussing 8 more tips for answering the question, "Tell me about yourself." The first tip is to tailor your answer to the role and company. So by asking that question, the interviewer is giving you an opportunity to articulate why you have the right qualifications, as the answer is relevant to the position you're applying for and the company that you're applying in. Therefore, take advantage of the opportunity. In order to do that, you'll want to spend some time combing through the job description, researching the company, and figuring out how you can tell your story in a way that makes it crystal clear why you're interested and what you bring to the table that aligns with the role and the company. This is the best chance to be very direct and share your objective, but your objectives need to fulfill their goals. So when you're in the midst of a job search looking for a particular type of role, you might have a basic template you use for every interview, but make sure to tweak it to fit the company. It's an opportunity to show them right away that you get it. If they talk a lot about culture, weave that into your answer. And if the company or even the particular team emphasizes something else, see if you can incorporate that as well. In some cases, individual keywords could help give the cue that you have done your research and are a good fit. For example, does the company refer to itself as a tech company or a startup, a consumer brand, or an online retailer? Generally, the right answers always resonate and help them understand that you understand the role. It also helps them get more engaged, as they can now believe that this interview will be going somewhere positive. The second point is to keep it professional. In keeping with the notion that this question carries an invisible adenum, as it's relevant to this company and the role you're applying for, you're best off keeping your answer professional. Usually in some countries, the norm is to share your personal details at this point, though in US, you should avoid doing this. In other words, this isn't the time to talk about your family and hobbies, unless you know something very specific about the company that could lead you to believe otherwise. The third point is to inject some passion into your answer if you feel comfortable. Keeping your answer professional, however, shouldn't stop you from shedding light on why you're passionate about your work or about this company, even if that broaches slightly more personal territory. If people feel comfortable telling their story from a passionate perspective, it helps engage the interviewer and sets them apart. You don't have to go into a huge amount of detail, but if your goal in an interview is to stand out among the applicant pool and be memorable, then infusing this answer with some passion can help you do that. People don't want to talk to robots, they want to talk to humans. So as an example, you can say something like, I'm really passionate about X and Y, and so I was really attracted to your company. The next good tip is to be brief, and definitely don't recite your resume. Whatever you do, don't waste this time regurgitating every single detail of your career. Most people answer it like they're giving a dissection of their resume, but that's only going to bore the interviewer to tears. It's not just about entertaining or engaging your interviewer. You also have to give a hint as to how you'll speak in your meeting with co-workers, bosses, and clients. Are you going to ramble for 10 minutes every time someone asks you a somewhat open-ended question? There's no scientifically proven optimal length for answering this or any interviewer question. Some coaches and recruiters will tell you to keep it to 30 seconds or less, while others will say you should aim for a minute or talk for no more than 2 minutes. Everyone has a different approach. However, I can say by personal experience that people tend to start losing steam after 1.5 to 2.5 minutes of uninterrupted talking. You'll have to decide what feels right for you in any given context. But if you're speaking for longer than a couple of minutes, there's a good chance you're going to get into too much detail too soon. Make sure you're also reading the room as you're talking. If the other person looks bored or distracted, it might be time to wrap it up. If they perk up at one part of your answer, it might be worth expanding on that topic a bit more. In general, however, remember that you don't have to relay your entire life story here. Think of it as a teaser that should pique the interviewer's interest and give them a chance to ask follow-up questions about whatever intrigues them the most. The fifth tip is to practice, but don't memorize. You don't want to wait until you get this question in a live interview to try out your answer for the first time. Think through what you want to convey about yourself ahead of each interview and practice saying it out loud. Another recommendation is leaving yourself a voicemail or recording your answer and then waiting an hour or more before you listen to it to give yourself some distance and perspective. When you finally play it back, see if the answer sounds solid and credible to you. If you can go beyond practicing solo, it always helps to practice with other people to hear yourself say it and hear feedback from how other people are interpreting what you're saying. Asking a trusted colleague, friend, or family member to listen and react to your answer will help you hone it. If your practice buddy is game, you can even ask them what they would say if they were being asked, and try to put yourself in the interviewer's shoes to think about what you'd look for on the other side. Practice will surely make your answer stronger and help you become more confident giving it. There's a fine balance between practicing and memorizing, and it needs to come off as very authentic. So remember, you don't want to sound overly rehearsed. You should be able to have a conversation. Imagine yourself telling a story to a good friend. The next tip is to know your audience. As with any interview question or conversation for that matter, you'll want to make sure you understand who you're talking to. You might get some form of "tell me about yourself" at every single stage of the interview process for a job, from the phone screen through final rounds, but that doesn't mean you have to give the same exact answer every time. If you're speaking to a recruiter who's not immersed in the hard skills of the team you'd be joining, you might keep your answer more focused on the bigger picture, whereas when you speak to your prospective boss, you might get a little bit more technical. If you're talking to a C-level executive as part of your final round, it's probably smart to touch on why you're drawn to the overall mission of the company they run. You can also enhance your answer and make it more specific to the role and company based on what you learn as you progress through the interview process. The seventh tip is to keep it positive. Don't give answers or a reply to in a form that has a negative tone to it. There's a time and place for everything. You don't have to cram it all into this answer. If you view this as your first impression professionally, give them a window into that, but don't give them everything. As you move further into an interview, things get more comfortable. So wait until you get a specific question about why you're looking to change a job, or why are you looking for this specific job, or why there was a gap in your studies before you were able to start looking for a job. The final tip is to remember this is often your first impression and it matters. We really only have one chance to make a first impression. My opinion is that most hiring decisions are made in the first minute, which includes your greeting, handshake, eye contact, and the first thing you say, which may very well be your response to "tell me about yourself." Even if the powers that aren't making an irreversible determination shortly after the conversation begins, a first impression can color the rest of the interview. If you have to spend the rest of your time making up for a bad opening, you're in a very different position than if you give a clear, brief, confident, and relevant answer right off the bat. Be prepared for this question and show interviewers that you're prepared for it. The confidence that comes across in this is a really good place to start from. Next, this is a sample answer that you can give. So when asked, "tell me about yourself," this is how you could reply. "Sure, so I've always enjoyed writing and public speaking, even going back to high school. This led me to pursue writing related passions. For example, in college, where I was an editor for our school newspaper. In addition to writing, I got to learn how to manage a team and the writing process. Over the years, I have maintained my habit of reading, and I'm very fond of your magazines. So when I saw an open posting in your organization, I decided to make the most of this opportunity and apply for this job." That brings us to the end of today's soft skill video session. Thank you for attending it and watching it, and I wish everyone a good day. Stay safe, stay happy. Bye.